Will we see a refresh of the DJI Mavic 3 this year in 2022? It's a question I get asked quite a lot. In today's video, let's discuss. So before I give you my opinion on this, let's just talk about the history of why this drone even exists. So the DJI Mavic Pro series has been the flagship DJI drone since we started to see folding drones coming out into the market. And DJI released the DJI Mavic Pro back in September 2016, followed by the Mavic Pro 2 in 2018, which featured a 1-inch sensor and adjustable aperture. Now these drones were a massive hit for DJI and loved by both professionals and consumers. Following that, we saw the Mavic Air series, which was this mid-tier drone by DJI, the Mavic Air and the Mavic Air 2 in 2020, and then in 2021 we saw the Air 2S, but that dropped the Mavic name. Fast forward to November of 2021, we saw the refresh of the Mavic series, the Mavic Pro series, but we saw the DJI Mavic 3, which is this. But that Pro name has now gone. So why is this? Now this could be that DJI is simply streamlining this product name to keep it nice and straightforward for everybody. We've got the Mini series, we've got the Air series, and we've got the Mavic series. Now this isn't going to be a bashing on the Mavic 3. This is probably the best drone that I have ever flown. The camera performance on here, the photos and videos, the way this drone just flies in the air and its raw power is simply just unmatched. But that's not to say that everything went well. Upon the launch, they did not have a good launch of this drone last year in November at all. A lot of the features were missing. There was arguments on one side of why it's a good idea to make sure everything's not released until it's actually ready for everybody else. And then there's arguments on the other side of you released a product and it's only half ready. So I can see both sides of the argument, but either way, it wasn't a successful launch. Fast forward now into February 2022, we've now got these features added, but still there is features missing on this, the Mavic 3, which the Mavic Pro 2 had. Now that doesn't sit right with me. That Pro name is a pro drone for professionals to be able to use this for professional work, for maybe commercials or for high-end jobs where you need simply the best quality, but also the ability to have full customizations on the settings, to be able to do what you want. You're in control of this. And unfortunately, the Mavic 3 has a lot of limitations purely from the software. Now the Mavic 3 has some fantastic features built into this, which we've now got unlocked. Everything on this drone is brilliant, it's better, but it doesn't mean though that it's the full package. There are features on here which are held back, and it's kind of like the drone is kind of wanting to give you more, but the software doesn't allow it. And the telephoto lens on the front of it, this 28x zoom, is one of the biggest disappointments that people have with this drone. Now I can't understand why DJI have marketed this as an explorer camera. It's basically a glorified telescope. It doesn't make sense. It seems to be it was more of a rush or an afterthought, or something wasn't ready yet to have this performing like they wanted. And it's also limited to 4K 30, but DJI will say, well, it's just an explorer camera. Now a lot of filmmakers out there will record in 4K 24 FPS or 25 FPS. So having 4K 30 allows it to not be the most smooth, streamlined process to have everything matched up when you're doing your editing. And the DJI Fly app, although great, it's quite limited, and the old Go 4 app had a lot more customization options within here. We're sharing this app with the Air 2S, the DJI FPV, the Mini 2, the Air 2, the Mavic Mini, and the DJI Mini SE. So a lot of different drones are sharing this app. Now I do like the app, it's got better, especially recently, but I feel it's still limited, and this deserves its own pro app. So this begs the question now, who is this drone actually for? Is this a pro drone or is this a consumer drone? Is this if you're a consumer and you want the best possible drone, the best possible quality, an upgrade over that Air 2S? Then this probably is everything that you need. But is it an actual pro drone? I don't know. I feel then that possibly leads to the question of, would we then see a replacement of this with a DJI Mavic 3 Pro or maybe an S version? Now, if we saw a new version like an S version or a Pro version, this could have a dedicated app to be able to get full customization out of the drone and these settings. We could have a larger telephoto sensor on the front, allowing full FPS settings to be able to use the actual telephoto zoom lens for your video and not just as a glorified telescope. Now, this could also improve the active track, hopefully trying to take on Skydio 2 to have fantastic active track performance, taking away any niggles that this drone still has. This could also have an upgraded camera, keeping it at maybe 5.1K or maybe an 8K camera ability, but to be able to use active track with that 5.1K camera. Currently it's limited to 4K only. Have extra features like waypoints and burst shooting in photos. This currently has an issue where it's getting GPS lock. It takes 5 to 10 minutes currently to lock on to the actual satellites. That is no good. That needs to be fixed. In the UK and Europe, it could possibly see a new classification stamp. At the moment, it's just a complete mess. I hope that we'll have all that resolved really soon on all of these bigger drones. But maybe if we saw a new drone this year, that would already come and be the first DJI drone with that classification stamp on it. Now, all this of course is speculation, but DJI know that launch didn't go well. We got the firmware update months early. It was due to come out in February. We got it before Christmas. Now, this could be due to bad press. It could be due to people being unhappy or the Christmas sales. We don't know, but we got it early. And then we got another firmware update a few weeks ago. So this drone as itself now is tons better, but that doesn't take away the bad press it first got upon release. So what are DJI going to do about this? Are they going to continue with firmware updates, or are they going to release an S version or a Pro version of this with some of them features I've just mentioned? Well, I don't think they will. And the reason for that is I think we've already got it. That's that Cine model with that 1TB SSD with the ProRes camera on here and with the additional smart controller that came with it. We've already got that. So I think they'll just improve it and continue to improve it with firmware updates. Everything that I just listed before on that list, like the telephoto camera, like the additional locking of software features, like waypoints, like burst shooting, the FPS saga, all of that could be unlocked with firmware. So why do we actually need another drone? The 5.1K camera is more than enough, the battery life is phenomenal on here, and the speed and power of it is great. The only niggle I don't know if it can be resolved with firmware is this GPS locking issue. But for me, when I first got this, I didn't have any GPS locking issues, so it's only seems to have got worse, possibly with the recent firmware update. Now, when the Mavic Pro came out, the Mavic Pro 2, people loved it. They got value for money. They had all the features in that drone. And then the Mavic 3 came out with nothing but bad press because of the price, because features were missing. This drone is phenomenal, but unless you actually own it or fly it, you just see the bad points, you just see the bad press, and you're just gonna think, it's a waste of money that I don't need that. But once you fly this, once you see that quality on your actual computer, what this actually produces, it's amazing, but it's held back because it needs continued firmware updates. It needs more features, ability on here to make this that flagship drone it should be. The Mavic line doesn't get refreshed normally for a couple of years. I would hate to see S upgrades where people are then going to have to spend thousands of pounds on a similar drone to this with just some added spec bumps. We don't need or want that. This should be refreshed every couple of years like it normally is, but this being the flagship drone with all the features that you could possibly need, and I really hope that continues to happen. So to summarize, no, I don't think there will be a Mavic 3 Pro or an S version of this. I think it will just get better with firmware updates. But let me know in the comments down below, what features do you think are missing from this? What do you want to see on this to make it better? Is it the camera? Is it the price? Is it features missing, or do you just want a new fly app or a dedicated app for this as well? Be really interested to see. Let me know in the comments down below. If you're new around here, like, subscribe would be awesome. We'll see you on the next one.